This is the ultimate guide to the Xumo remote control. The version of the Xumo remote control that I have is the one diagrammed here below, and I'm just going to go through what each part of it does. The first indicator light is in the upper center. It'll turn red and green depending on the function being performed, and I'm going to show you in the following video what to look for there. To the right of that is the power button. That's the power button for your TV, as well as the input button. That's the input button for your TV. Those two work together. Power turns the TV on and off, and input changes where the TV is getting its input. So if you have multiple cables in the back of your TV, it'll change it between the different options there. Alright. And then to the left under input here, volume up and down, as well as mute. These again work against the TV, not the Xumo box itself, but you can use them to control the volume. To the right of that is the system settings for the Xumo box. That will bring up all the settings, and I'll show you that in the video that's following this introduction. In the center is probably the most important button, the voice control button. You should be able to hold down the voice control button and ask it to do pretty much anything that the Xumo box can do. You could hold it down and say open the Spectrum app. You could hold it down and say turn on HGTV channel on the Spectrum app, and things like that. The more button is the three ellipsis ... and that allows you to do a minor amount of things on the Xumo box, and we're going to look at that later. Now in the center here, this is the navigation wheel. So if you think about this, it's really going to allow you to do enter in the center select. The circle center select is the enter button. And then when you want to move around in the menus or move around in the TV shows you're looking at, there's an up one up here, a down one down here, a right one here, and a left one there. So it allows you to change, where you are on the screen, and then again hit the enter in the center if you want to be able to see where you're at. Below there you can see the back button. That allows you to go back. It is not to be confused with the left button, which I'd often done in the earlier videos, but essentially that'll get you back out of something. Then there's the add button, and I'll show you that. That allows you to put things in My List in the Xumo interface. So if you're browsing around and you see Columbo and you're like, I like that show, click the add button. That'll put it in your My List row. Then there's the home button, which brings you back to the main page every time. So when you want to get back to where you started, the home button is the one to use. Below that, there are dedicated apps buttons. Netflix, Peacock, Xumo, and Prime. Those will get you right into those apps that exist on the Xumo. And below that, the remainder of it is like every other TV. You're going to have your 0 through 9 buttons to allow you to change channels or interact with the menus when numbers are called for. So now let's dive into some of the tips and tricks on the remote itself, how to use it, with video examples. Number one is wake from sleep mode, where the TV's on but the Xumo box isn't. So you hit the home button, and by doing that it kind of gives a signal to the Xumo box to wake up. Now hit that center select button to go into the Spectrum app for the next couple of tips. Next up, we're going to set the startup channel. So when you power on the unit, hit the back button and then hit the up button so you're inside the Spectrum menu, and basically there's home, live TV, guide. You're just going to hit the right button until you're all the way across all 5 of the top tabs, and then keep hitting the right button, and you'll cross over from the on demand to that one, and then hit it one more time till you're on over the gear. Now hit the select button in the center once you're over the gear, and what that does is it brings you into the Spectrum settings. From here you'll hit the down button, go to parental controls, hit the down button again, purchase controls, and one more time the down button to preferences. Once you're on preferences, you hit the right button, and that'll highlight the top row. Startup channel set to off, then hit the select button to toggle it to on. Once you see that it's on, hit the down button again, and this is where we'll select it and then go ahead and hit the select button. So in the top row is your favorites, so any channel you favorited, you can set the startup channel to that. It's just an easy way to see them. And then down, if you hit the down button, you get A to Z channels. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the buttons to navigate and get over the AMC channel, and then hit the center select button when you're over the channel you want, and that'll save the channel as your startup channel. And then go ahead and hit the back button several times to get back into your content. So a good segue into the next one, how do we set a channel into our favorites? So go ahead and hit the back button in the Spectrum app until you get the Spectrum menu. And again, on the top where you see the 5 tabs, navigate over to the guide and go ahead and hit the select button to get down into the guide. And once you're in the guide, hit the left button, and that will send you into the channels. So you're highlighting the channels, not the programs. From here you can go up or down, and when you find the channel you want to favorite, just go ahead and hit the select button, and that'll put a little heart next to the channel. You can see the heart becomes white, it fills in a color, and so now that channel is one of your favorites. And then go ahead and hit the right button to get back out to your program guide. Now you can see all channels, so if you hold and press the center button, you'll get the option to filter your guide. And if you go down to from all channels, you can go to favorites and hit the center select button, and now you've got just your favorite channel showing. Now this filter thing only appears if you're actually over a program, not the channel names. So again, if you press and hold while you're over a program, you can get back to this filter, go up and down. I'm just going to leave it where it is, all channels, and I'm going to hit the center select button because I want to move back to all channels. And there it is. Next up, we're going to change the closed caption size. So when you're watching a program and you have the closed captions turned on, out of the box it's rather small. I mean, I can't read that even up close. So the way to change that when you're watching a show is you hit the gear button on the remote, which is different than the gear button in the menu, and that brings you to the Xumo settings screen, and then you hit the right button twice to the accessibility tile, and then you hit the center select button. And from here you're going to go down 4 rows, so hit the down button 1, 2, 3 times, and then hit the right button when you're on this row here, and it'll highlight the manage. And then when that's highlighted, you hit the center select button. So here you are with the settings for closed caption style. So go ahead and hit the right button on text, and you can see it's set to small. So when you hit the right button and it's highlighted, then you hit the center select button, and from here now you're inside the chooser. You can hit the down and up arrow to choose the size you want, and when you're hovered over a size you want, you hit the center select button. And then from there you just basically hit the home button to get back out, and then I'm going to hit the center select button to get back into the Spectrum app. And it can see when you change it, it removes captions from the display. So hit the up arrow to get to your quick program guide, and then to the right a few times till you see CC highlighted, close captions, and then hit the center select, and then just let it sit. It'll set, and you'll start to see the captions in the size that you configured, and that is much better, easier to read. So next up, we're going to look at a shortcut for the lack of page up and page down in the program guide. If you're in the program guide and you press and hold the down arrow, it'll fast scroll through the guide. So it's not quite page up or page down, but it removes you having to manually click to see each row if you're way away from the channel you want to be on. It also works with the up arrow. If you press and hold the up arrow in the guide, it will also fast scroll all the way up, and because you're on the Xumo box, it's going to loop through the guide, so you don't have to worry about getting all the way to the top and it stopping. You'll just keep going. So again, if you're on the program guide and you press and hold the up or down button, you're going to get a fast scroll, which is kind of a nice feature. So next up, we're going to do record a show or a series. So we'll start with recording a show. If you're watching a show, you hit the up button and you'll see the record button is highlighted. Go ahead and hit the center select button and hit the center select button a second time on the next menu. And you'll see on the screen it'll say recording saved. So it's a real quick way without a dedicated record button. Now if you want to record a series, hit the back button in the Spectrum app, go to the guide, use your arrow buttons to navigate around to the show you want, and hit the center select button. And then hit the right button so you're over the record, and then hit the center select button to select record. Now you're going to get a choice. You can up or down here, record series or record show. I'm going to hit the select button over record series, and then all my options are here. I can just hit the select button again and it's going to record the series, and you'll see at the bottom recording saved. So you can do it that way, or you can go back to that last screen and you can actually configure if you want new only, or all the different options are there. You can use the navigation buttons to configure it to your liking. Once you've got recorded shows in the Spectrum app, hit the back button to find them and you'll see the Spectrum menu, home, live TV. So use your navigation buttons to get up to the top, and then go over to, from home, go to live TV, to the right, guide, my library. And then in my library, go ahead and hit the center select button and you'll see view DVRs highlighted, and hit the center select button again. And from here you can use the navigation buttons to go up, down, left, right, all around, and you'll see a tile for each of your recorded shows or series. So if you hit the center select over one of them, you'll get a list of shows, and then you can watch the show from there. Which is a great segue into watching recorded content and fast forwarding and rewind. So when you're watching a recorded show, in order to fast forward or rewind, you got to hit the center select button so the timeline comes up. It's also going to pause it. And if you hit the right button, you'll fast forward. If you hit the right button multiple times, you'll fast forward multiple speeds, so it'll go ×1, ×2, ×3. When you get to the point you want to be in the timeline, you hit the center select button to stop, and that'll play at that point in the timeline. The same is true with rewinding. If you want to rewind your show, you just hit the left button, and 1, 2, or 3 times it'll increase the speed, and when you get to the point in the program you want, hit the center select button to view your content. And once you've been recording shows for a while and fill up your DVR, you're going to want to know how to delete a recorded series, which is a little different than deleting a recorded show. So in the DVR, in a recorded series where you see a list of shows, go ahead and hit the right arrow, and then when that's highlighted, hit the down arrow to series options, and then hit the select. And from here you'll get an option to cancel the series or edit the series. So go ahead and hit the center select over cancel series, and then that's pretty much it. Then you says recording deleted on the bottom, which means no more new episodes of this will be recorded. And last but not least, if you're in the Pluto free TV app on the Xumo box, how to exit the guide. So if you're scrolling through the guide and you just want to exit the guide, there's really no shortcut. Hit the left arrow when you're done scrolling, and you'll see highlight on the left. When you do that, it's going to be which genre you're in. Go ahead and hit the left arrow a second time once you see that's already highlighted there. And when you hit it a second time, you'll see you're over the top of the channel guide. So then go ahead and hit the up arrow so it says now watching, and then hit the center select button. And basically that's it. That brings you out. You can still see what you were watching without having to change the channel in Pluto TV guide. So if the Xumo is asleep, you just click the home button once and it ought to wake it right up onto your TV. For the last channel, just click the down button once and then the enter button. It automatically selects the last channel you viewed. One way to turn on captions is hit the ellipsis button and then hit the right button and then hit the enter button. and then the back button to get out. I also found the shortcut for captions. Hit the up button, and then the right button, and then the enter button. To get the Spectrum guide to show up, hit the back button, then the right button, and then the right button again, just till you select guide, and then the down button. Within the Spectrum channel guide, you can select to view channels by name or number. Hit the enter button in the guide, and you'll get a new menu, and from there you can select name or number. A shortcut to the mini Spectrum guide is found by hitting the right button. It'll pop up a mini guide. To get the description of an episode, hit the up button, and then the enter button to get the full description. And then back out, just hit the back button. So there's an energy / money saving feature. If you hit the gear on your remote to go into settings, and then the down button to the second row, and then to the right, one more to the right where it says startup and standby, go ahead and hit the enter button on that. And then in the list that appears, if you hit the down button once, it'll say overnight power saving. Click the enter button, and what it does is it puts the stream box into a standby mode at night, and it'll save you some energy / money, presumably. From testing I did, the remote also doesn't have to have a line of sight to the box to be able to use it, which is really handy. You can use it at any angle, point it in any direction, and then the box receives it. I'm going to do some common issues with the Xumo remote control for the Spectrum and other apps. So the first thing we're going to look at is how to fix the remote when the home or voice buttons fail to work. So if you're on the remote and your home button or voice button doesn't work, hit the center select button inside the navigation circle, and when you do that, you should see the light at the top. If it turns green and those buttons weren't working before, check the batteries. I'll show you that below, and if that doesn't work, reset the remote, and I'm going to show you that as well. Now if the same key action hitting that center circle had a light turn red or a light turn green and then red, you're going to want to reset the remote, and I'll give you the instructions for that below, and then you're going to want to repair the remote, pairing it to the Xumo box, and I'll give you those instructions below. The next question is how to reset the Xumo remote control. So like we were just talking about, there's reset and there's repairing. So this is the resetting of the remote. So if you have your remote in front of you, hold down the back button and the plus sign at the same time, and hold that for 1, 2, 3 seconds. And at 3 seconds or shortly after, you should see the indicator light turn green at the top of the remote. Then you can let go of those buttons. Then you're going to want to key in these numbers: 9 followed by 8 followed by 4. Now if the top of the remote, the indicator light blinks red with the remote pointed at your Xumo box, so line of sight, make sure the Xumo box is visible from the front of the remote, point the front of the remote at the Xumo box. Try pressing like the home key on the remote and any other keys, and what you should see is the indicator light on the remote is showing a green light at the top. That's how you reset the remote. So now we're going to look at how to repair the remote. So you're going to pair the remote. You want to pair it with the Xumo Stream box. So again, with the remote control pointed at the Xumo Stream box, you're going to hold down the 1 and the 3 buttons on the remote, and you're going to hold those again for 3 seconds. So 1, 2, 3 seconds. And when the 3 seconds is up, you should see the green indicator light at the top of the remote light up. So now try hitting the up arrow inside the navigation circle or the down arrow inside the navigation circle. Either one and you should again see for both of those, you should see the green indicator light up at the top, which indicates that the remote is now paired with the Xumo Stream box. So the next question is how to check the remote battery health. So it works a little different on the Xumo Stream box than it does on the Xumo TV, and we are always talking about the Xumo Stream box here. On the Xumo Stream box, if you look in the upper right hand corner of the screen when you're on the home, if I'm not mistaken from the last time I replaced the batteries, I think it will show up here up where the clock is. It will show up with a battery icon that indicates it's running out of power, if I'm not mistaken. I can't seem to find nearly gone batteries at the moment, so I haven't tested it. I haven't been able to capture it on video, but I think that's where you'll get some indication, and if you don't, then I must be thinking of a different setup. Last question is how to replace the batteries. So if you're pretty sure the batteries are gone and you want to start fresh with new batteries, this is really tricky. There's a lot of conversations on this. The first time you open the battery compartment, it opens, I'd say, rather easily, but then over time, at least with the model I had, it did. But then over time, the battery compartment becomes harder and harder to open. So at first I just had it flipped over and I was trying to depress this little circle in the center of the battery door panel. I was trying to press it down to release the catch, and then I was going to slide it off the body of the remote, but that didn't really work for me. So I ended up having to flip it over and with two hands put two thumbs on the battery compartment door and push in towards the remote to depress it, the door itself, so that the little latch came free, and then push down to slide the door off of the remote. And it took me a few times, as you can see here. I couldn't believe how much harder it is now than it was when I got it almost a year ago, because when I got it new, the thing just clicked right off. But now I don't know what it is about it. After you use it for a while, it seems to get really stuck on there. But that's how you get the battery compartment off, and then you can see inside there's just two AAA batteries on this model, and you just replace those with whatever kind of batteries you like that are AAA size. So this is how to program a universal remote, in our case a backlit universal remote with buttons for channels, against the Spectrum Xumo Stream box. So here's the end result. We have this one for all universal remote. It's backlit. It's a second remote for the Xumo box. It has keyable channel numbers, and it controls multiple devices, and we've got it working with Xumo finally. So the key to figuring all this out was that Xumo Remote has two modes of communicating, which I didn't know. The first is RF radio frequencies like Bluetooth, and that's what you see in some of the Amazon Fire TV remotes and Google TV. The second mode is infrared, which is, like a car's headlight. You have to have it pointed at the box for it to receive it. It's direct line of sight only. The trick is you can't get the infrared to work until the radio frequency is off. So to get the conditions right for the remote to be learnable by a universal remote, it took a little bit of experimentation. I would say weeks of experimentation, but here's what you need to do. If you unplug the Xumo box, then it stops trying to transmit via RF and it switches over to IR on the remote. The remote is that smart. If the remote can't reach the box by RF, it then switches over to IR, and then you can teach a new remote. So step one, if you're going to do this, you want to unplug the Xumo box from the wall, and I'm just going to, for dramatic effect, unplug every plug out of the Xumo box because I'm so happy that I figured this out finally. And then once that's off, the remote itself is going to switch from radio frequency to IR, and the way that you know it's done that is when you hit any button on the remote and it blinks green, it'll immediately blink red after. That means it can't find the box via radio. Step two is to buy and set up a universal remote. So for me, I have the one for all, and I'll link to the review of it below. Basically, I'm doing the key in for that to get it ready to learn. So now it's in learning mode. So I'm going to hit the 1 on the one for all, and then the 1 on the Xumo box remote, and it's going to learn it. I'm going to do the same thing for 2, and it's going to learn it. So effectively I'm going to start over here so you can see, but I'm going 1 through 0, going through all the numbers, and on the new remote I hit the number I want to have that function, and on the old remote, the Xumo remote, I hit the button for that function so that it transmits it to the new remote. And note they have to be pointed at each other a few inches apart on a level surface, because again this is light based, so the light has to be transmitted and received from the old remote to the new remote. And it's like, kind of consider it like a headlight. It's like a beam of light. It has to go across to the other remote for it to be learned. 5 on the new remote, 5 on the old remote, 6 on the new remote, 6 on the old remote, 7 on the new remote, 7 on the old remote, 8 on the new remote, 8 on the old remote. So now we're down to 9, and then we'll just do 0 and 0. So now that we learned all the channel numbers, which was one of the key reasons I have the Spectrum Xumo box, I'm going to do the volume up, volume down. So there's volume up. I'm going to do the mute, and then I'm going to do the center enter button, and then I'm going to do the 4 stations around the outer circle. So the up button, down, left, left, and then right on the new remote, which is on the other side of the old remote there, just because of the way that I'm filming it. So now we've pretty much paired the majority of the buttons that we wanted to pair between the old and the new. Now we can enjoy the remote. So you have to plug the Xumo box back in, boot it up, and enjoy the remote. So now we have a remote that's not the Xumo remote, that has buttons to do channel changes on the Spectrum app running on the Xumo box. It also happens to be a backlit remote, because I bought that on purpose. This one ran about 60 bucks for the remote, and I'll link to it below as to where I got it. You can get them much cheaper, may or may not be backlit, but you can get them at a drugstore, a big box store, or an electronics store, pretty much anywhere. They sell universal remotes in a lot of different places. You can change channel by number. It's backlit. It is wonderful. And it's much, much more easy to use because it's easier to hold. It's more like a TiVo remote, which is again why I bought the one for all model. But you can buy any model you want. And if we view DVR content, it works the same way as it does on the Xumo box. So you can hit the center enter button in the circle to pause it. This would be for on demand or DVR'd, and you can hit the right arrow to fast forward, and the center enter button to play again or pause it. But yeah, it works exactly like the Xumo remote. So the same ability to interact with the Spectrum app, the same buttons can be pressed after you train it, but it's just being able to use a single remote that can control up to 6 devices rather than 2 devices or 3 devices as theoretically in the Xumo box remote they say you can control your sound bar and whatnot. I have not tried that, but yeah, it's nice because you can get the remote that you want, and in my case the backlit was really a priority. But again, the channel buttons, being able to push the channel numbers on a different remote and not having to deal with Xumo or Spectrum to do this was basically the goal all along. It just took a lot of trial and error. So So it's nice. You have the channel numbers, you have the backlit remote. You can control up to 6 devices on this specific universal remote. Voice commands is still the lagger, but that requires a radio frequency as far as I can understand, which makes sense because it's a lot of information being transmitted from the remote to the TV. So for 60 or less dollars to be able to get 3 out of 4 features like that is a big win in my book. You can get the higher priced Logitech remotes, but those are going to run you in the hundreds if not thousands of dollars, and that'll probably get you to the voice command ability to clone that onto a second remote. Again, thanks for watching and commenting. I enjoy the comments most of all. And again, if you like the video, hit the thumbs up to like it. It'll help with the algorithm, or hit the bell to be notified when new ones come out.